we got to start, Tim. Let's not even mess around. The 46-yard pass, Caleb Williams to DJ Moore in overtime to win the game. Discuss.
Yeah, to me, I think a lot of this, if you go all the way back, I think a lot of this is set up by the fact that Micah Parsons isn't out there, right? And so the last time we played him, we're moving the pocket, we're moving the launch point, we're in boot, we're in sprint, we're trying to move the launch point with Micah, which then sets up all these run action shots that we ended up taking in the second time. And listen, I think we would have taken them regardless if Micah was out there, to be honest with you. But I think it's obviously easier as a play caller to say, oh, hey, let's dial some of these up because, we don't have to worry about number one chasing us around. But to me, all this was set up 2 weeks ago. It's dang near identical to what we've seen them do with two back, little run action or little play action boot. Instead, they kind of rock the protection, meaning it's a half roll, right? Caleb's kind of moving slightly off the launch point. And then we called it country, right? Where that receiver's working all the way across the field. They set it up beautifully because they had what we would call a little float route where the tight end acts like he's running an over, like it's boot, and then he pulls back to the same side. So that gets that corner to jump down. And then at that point, it's one-on-one for DJ, and DJ just wins, and Caleb throws a great ball. And to me, like the contested catch, I think, obviously Caleb's special, right? And that throw was awesome, and everybody's fired up for him. That contested catch, I mean, the fact that there wasn't a flag on the field, I think it's one of those that if he doesn't make the play, the flag probably comes out, right?
I agree. Yep.
But what I will say is that contested catch, man, that was all time. But it just goes to show you, I think that's the kind of player DJ is. I think obviously with Rome out, Luther out, it's easier to get him, hey, we need to make sure we get him an X amount of touches. I do think once we get back to full, strength going into the playoffs, we still need to make sure we're getting DJ his touches because you can see just what kind of player he is in clutch time.
Yeah, and it's good to see, right? I mean, he's someone that can contribute to the team in multiple ways, but, getting a guy like that started is what the Bears need, and Caleb needs that as well. But I'm curious, right? I feel like something like that is set up over the course of a game, right, Tim, where you have activity on early downs that allows you to have those late game comebacks or those late game moments. What was something that the tape told you that Caleb was doing better on early downs that set that up?
Well, yeah, I mean, shoot, I mean, not even Caleb necessarily, but like the amount of times that was 13 personnel, right? One back, three tight ends. The amount of times we got into 13 and just ran the ball. I feel like it was like 7 or 8 times before eventually they called the shot play. So it's not only, Caleb setting everything up with all the good movement stuff that he put on tape 2 weeks ago. And then, hey, we start with it early, right? Where we get a couple of boots, get a couple of easy ones. But it's been too in terms of the patience to get into that. Shoot, I don't think I have that patience, right? To get into that formation, know that you've got that shot play in your back pocket. To get into that formation 7 times, run the rock, like that's extreme, that's great discipline as a play caller, right? We always take for granted, like, oh, they're a coach, they should. We take for granted how hard it is to keep something like that on your call sheet. You install it, you have the look on tape, you love it, you keep going right past it, right? And checking something else off. The discipline to keep that on your call sheet is great. My favorite thing, though, about the overtime sequence, if I'm being honest with you, is that's actually the second shot play, right? The very first play from scrimmage, we're trying to set Komet up on what we would call leak, where he runs that little shallow but then turns it up. We try to hit Y leak for a touchdown to win the game. Oh, okay, hey, we don't have it. Caleb scrambles around, throws it away, run the ball, conversion. And then guess what? Another shot play. Like, I just love the fact that we got the ball in overtime. And then all of a sudden, Ben's like, hey, we're going for the throat right away. Basically, 2 run plays, 2 shot plays to win the game. I just love that from a play caller perspective. But yeah, the discipline from Caleb to make sure he's continuing to execute the movement game that then sets up like a rock protection. And then Ben to keep that thing on the call sheet for as long as he did. I think both of them are great. And I think both of them just bodes well to see what this offense is, how they're trending in the right direction. I do think, too, to me, I felt like when I watched the tape, I really felt like our offense was rolling. I feel like we had a couple of things happen down tight in the high red or low red zone where all of a sudden we didn't walk away with the amount of points we wanted. But I do think this offense was rolling more so than it kind of felt like, which is where I do feel like, man, it did feel like if we could just find a way to get this thing to overtime, we're going to put it away. Or if we could just find a way to keep this thing close. And then obviously a couple of things bounced our way and we end up pulling it out.
Another one of the plays that I really liked is going back to DJ Moore and it required a big-time throw and a maybe even bigger-time catch, but I'll let you give the opinion on that, or the X's and O's of it here, Tim. And that specifically is fourth quarter, 20-yard play down the middle to DJ Moore. That's the drive that led to the Jade Walker touchdown to tie the game in regulation. DJ Moore has to go up to get the ball, knowing that he's about to take a hit. What did you think about the throw and catch on that particular play?
Yeah, that was perfect. That's old school dagger, right? Inside guy runs the seam. DJ's outside. He runs what we used to call the Cadillac 6, right? The big in, because back in the day, if you made that throw, you could get a Cadillac. Now, you make that throw, you can go ahead and get yourself a jet, I guess, with the way these guys are getting paid. But What I will say is incredible timing from Caleb, right? Perfect. Hey, we hitched once, got the ball out to our first progression. But yeah, to go up in the middle of the field and make that play, especially after, you got to remember, and I know, we take it for granted sometimes. These guys are warriors. But DJ'd been, I know Green Bay's going to say whatever they want to say. DJ's been kind of cheap-shotted, targeted a little bit throughout the game, right? I think I've seen some DBs. They're far more athletic than they look when they're running into DJ's back, right? So to me, it's like the dude's been taking a beating the whole game to then go up and continue to put his body. That to me is really, really big-time stuff from when you're looking at a veteran leader. Okay, hey, you're going to get up, you're going to make a play, probably going to get smoked. So to me, it was a great catch. I thought perfect timing from the footwork perspective. That's the thing that I think we need to get more excited about, right? I think we're all excited, hey, that they've got 11 wins, they've clinched the playoffs. We need to get more excited about how Caleb is now tying his feet to his progression, because this is something we didn't see last year. We really didn't see at the beginning of this year. But his feet are starting to tell the story. As a quarterback, your feet should tell the story on where you're at in your progression, right? If I'm on my first progression, it's either boom off the plant or it's single hitch. If I'm on my second, it's a slight reset of my base. Caleb, man, if you see him get to his third progression, it's okay, 5 hitch, reset, ball. It's dang near perfect in terms of his feet telling you the story. And that's another play where he was perfectly on time, first progression, 1 hitch, get the ball out of your hand. And then that was why that window looks so big on tape, when really it shouldn't be that big. It's just that we're playing on time, and then DJ is able to go up and get it.
Tim, what you're saying right now is really important. I want to follow up with you on that with this question. When did you start to see the change? Because it's something that you've talked about almost every week when we've been critical of Caleb, where they ask you, what happened on that play? And you would always say it's about the feet. Has it kicked in now? I guess is my question. When did you start to see it make the turn? And has it kicked in and we don't have to look back as much now? Or is it still work in progress despite the improvement?
To me, I think it was the Steelers game, right? I think that week 12-ish, week 12, 13, you started to see it more consistently from within the pocket. Is it one of those things where it's man, we turned the corner and we won? To be fair, that's a kind of a yes and no. The yes is that obviously he's starting to understand how in this offense we need to tie our feet to our progression, right? Mm-hmm. He's starting to understand that this isn't really an off-platform offense. This is hey, I know exactly where I'm going to be on certain throws, right? With that being said, he's still a young quarterback, and the install package each week is so vast that it's going to still be an issue, but not an issue from lack of understanding, just an issue from the same way that receivers will bust routes. Every once in a while, a quarterback's going to bust his footwork, and that's not just Caleb Williams specific. That's just about everybody. So to me, do I feel like we've turned the corner? I do, in terms of just his general understanding of how I need to operate in the NFL and what I think is him understanding what our expectation is of him as a coach. Then the next step is that, hey, we're obviously always going to have busts and misassignments. Can we limit those? Can we make sure those don't happen? But I do think we've turned the corner in terms of his understanding of what's expected of him within this offense.
It's a lot easier to get your feet settled underneath you when you got 2 Pro Bowlers blocking for you, bro.
Oh, hell yeah.
It just feels good.
Hell, say it, man.
To do something like
that.
The
Bears have 2 Pro Bowl offensive linemen.
Can't say it enough. Tim, you mentioned the Steelers game. I was always telling people that for me was like when the playoffs began, right? Serious games that had true value and meaning, and you wanted Caleb and the team to be playing at an optimal level when those things started. So my question for you is, if this exact game, the one that the Bears just had against the Packers, happens again in late January in the form of a playoff game, what adjustments do you think the Packers will make to this offense that the Bears is operating in the present? Like what are they seeing that they need to put a stop to?
Yeah, here's the hardest thing about it is I feel like the Packers more or less they're set up to take away one, right? They're gonna be able to take away one of the things, which is either they're gonna take away run or they're gonna take away run action. The issue is that to me, they're not like super variable. They're going to tell you a little bit. I mean, obviously, everything nowadays is so disguised, right? And I've got my clicker in my hand when I'm doing the tape, and I can rewind it 10 times. With that being said, they're not super variable in terms of you don't see them play a lot of like two shell, soft coverage, but with pressure, right? They're not going to heat zone like 4 deep or hit heat zone 2 deep on you. They're really going to give you single high and a chance to go attack it deep with man coverage, or they're going to give you soft zone. And to me, this Bears team, what you got to try to take away is you have to load the box because I know that Caleb's special. I know he's starting to make the turn. But this run game is so dang efficient that it's like you have to take that away first. So then you start to insert that safety or you start to get heavier in your personnel. And then guess what? Now the run action, play action, real shot plays. Because the thing about Caleb is we take for granted some of these dig routes or some of these dagger concepts that he bangs in there. These are 20, 25-yard throws, and he's just making them with pace, right? He looks like he's throwing a slant. He's not, right? He's driving this thing down the field. So it's like that push-pull of how do I load the box? How do I take away the Bears' run game? But then simultaneously, I got to be aware of run action. So anytime my backers take that step up in run action, boom, that, what we would call that vertical window is now wide open, right? Because your safeties are deeper, and then now your linebackers are up. Guess what? We got a huge in cut. We've got all our deep overs. So it's tough to say, hey, how are they going to do it? I would be willing to bet that we're going to get a heck of a lot more pressure. We're going to get way more, blitz, and I think we're going to get a lot of pressure, a lot of twists, and then I think that we're going to also get some, real, I would say, way, shell coverage on that 3rd and long type stuff. But to me, I think they're going to load us up and heat us up because, to me, you take away run with that, and then also you force Caleb to be perfect in his pressure looks. And again, I say that, but guess what? Hey, it was cover 0 when they throw the corner route touchdown on 4th and 6, right? So do they feel like they got burned, or are they willing to go back to it? I just think I would pressure at this point in Caleb's career. I would heat him up. I'd take away the run, and then I would try to force him to be perfect in his pressure plan. Mm-hmm. And if he is, hey, you're going to beat us. And then if not, we'll be able to generate enough turnovers or negative plays to where we think our offense can then get us over the hump.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're talking to Tim Jenkins, founder and CEO of Jenkins Elite, and you can watch his full Caleb Williams breakdown. The video is on YouTube right now at All Things QB. And I know that we are not paying you to break down Brock Purdy's game, but that is the next quarterback that the Bears will see. What is your opinion on Brock Purdy? And if you would want, you could even make it specific to if you happen to have watched last night, Brock Purdy, 25 of 34, 295, and 5 TDs. What do you think about that quarterback, Tim Jenkins?
Yeah, so we did watch last night. Here's what I'll tell you about the Jenkins house, and it's a pretty funny thing. So, Dad, my boys like to tell me that Dad didn't play in the NFL because when I got signed, it was the St. Louis Rams, and they say, Dad, there's not a team in St. Louis anymore. So
that's just mean, man. Played. This kid's got to give it to you.
Yeah, that's I appreciate that when they humble me. But what I will say is the Jenkins family, the kids love ball, and they have the funniest like amount of teams they love. So my oldest kid, he loves the Bears, loves Caleb Williams, but then he also loves Brock Purdy, right? And I'm like, hey buddy, you're gonna have to kind of pick this Sunday. I think he's going with the Bears, but we'll circle back on that. But So we're watching Brock Purdy. Here's what I'll say: it's like he to me feels like when you watch somebody hit their back foot, get the ball out, get to the second progression, get to the third progression. He feels like what Caleb to me is going to get to with Ben, where it's that just, man, it almost feels like it's a machine, right? He knows exactly where to go against what coverage. He knows how to use his personnel. And then Brock is just obviously not as talented as a kid like Caleb, right? And I think, you look at what he did last night, and to me, a lot of this is because of what I do for work in terms of training quarterbacks. You can't really teach, a guy to be like Caleb Williams, right? You can't take a kid and say, hey, man, go, throw this thing on a frozen rope with both your feet off the ground. Like, you can't do that. Whereas Brock is somebody who's really someone that you could kind of teach off of. So when you look at him, it's going to be like and I feel like every defense ever has probably done this to the kid, where it's you look at him and you go, man, we don't see a ton of super special physical traits. However, it feels like he is just going to methodically move down the field and take advantage of us if we're out of position. So to me, a guy like that, you really got to sit there and you got to make sure that we're dialed in. You got to make sure that we don't tip too much at the line of scrimmage in terms of our pressure plan, right? We got to make sure that we can get after him from a disguised look. Simultaneously, you can't be super off when you're coming, because if you're coming from depth, right? If you're gonna go ahead and heat him up from 5 yards, ball's gonna be out in the void before you even get there. So we've got to be really good with our disguises this week. We've got to make sure that we have a good plan in terms of how we're gonna get after him and move him off of the spot. I also think when you look at the other side of it, and again, like I think we all got to love seeing Phillip Rivers out there, man. That makes me feel like I could get back out there and spin it. But watching that Colts offense move the ball kind of gave me a lot of hope in terms of what I think this Bears team can do. And I think the Bears team can run the ball more effectively than Indianapolis did last night. So to me, I do think obviously this is a buzzsaw, right? The San Francisco team, they're the real deal. Is this, another playoff game? Yeah, it absolutely is, because this is a team that we're going to see again at some point, probably, if we continue to make a run. I still think the Bears have a chance. We just got to make sure we can get after Purdy, move him off the spot, and then we got to make sure we can run the ball effectively. If both those things check out, this thing will be a ball game, and we'll have another chance to win this thing late in the game.
Can't wait to see it as the build-up begins. Bears at San Fran on Sunday night. Tim, I hope that your children are really nice to you around the holiday season. You deserve it, my friend. Thank you so much for doing what you do for us here.
Yeah, they're nice. They're nice, but they're expensive. I'll tell you that. 5 kids getting presents under the tree. I'm happy I bet the Bears late in that game and hit that bet. So, we're going to stay in the house one more month.
The kids are eating tonight, Mom. I love it. Tim, thanks, buddy.
Merry Christmas, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well. That is Tim Jenkins, founder and CEO of Jenkins Elite.